Welcome everybody to episode 6 of Real Time. My name is Ryan. With me as always is the Captain Picard to my Riker.
You got me again, damn it. I wasn't expecting that one. I was like thinking today, what other things can he actually throw at me? But no, there we go. So do I do the Picard maneuver and you do the Riker maneuver?
If you will, yeah.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you.
That's right. Should we just start with Endgame just blowing up everything?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty obvious place to start.
I mean, what is it now? Like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks it's been in cinemas now?
For us, just over 2 weeks. For everyone, just over 2. So about 2.5 for us.
And I think within that time it's got to at least 2.5 billion, or is it pushing on 3 now?
It's 2.3 something, I think, worldwide. Yeah, it's an insane amount of money to be made. I saw James Cameron sending out a congratulations note for sinking the Titanic box office, which was 2.1. Obviously, Avatar's in its sights, 2.788, something like that. But I guess that's the thing, the box office is almost overshadowing the movie, I almost want to say, in some respects.
More people are interested in the box office take than going to see the movie.
Well, I guess they're going to see the movie, but...
Yeah, they go hand in hand in a way too.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Let's go give it more money, let's go see it.
Yeah, jeez. Even in New Zealand, I think the last I looked is pretty big, like 8 million New Zealand dollars, which is, we're a small market, but like 8 million for a movie.
Still putting in quite a bit.
Insane.
I mean, especially a population of 4.5 million. So,
and China's like close to 600 million.
Yeah,
like they're going nuts.
Insane.
They're just going insane for it.
We spoke on the earlier podcasts of that. In my opinion, I don't think they needed the trailers or anything for it. They just need to go Endgame coming May. People would still go see it.
One shot of a character like Tony Stark and doing exactly what he did at the start of the trailer would have been enough. That was the trailer. Just
talking to Pepper
and
through
logo.
the helmet. Yeah,
I think we still would have done the same amount of money. It's just insane. I can't believe it. I guess we should rewind to our last episode, because you mentioned the last podcast. We tried to get through every Marvel film before we went to Endgame. We got slightly over halfway. Partly just conflicts of timing and it was
small holidays here and there.
Holidays and exactly.
Hence our hiatus between episodes as well.
Exactly, it's been really difficult. So we're kind of it's insane though. It gives you a bit of reevaluating, gives you a better appreciation of some of the things, and you realise some things that maybe you did like, we didn't like as much. But it was really good. In some ways, it was good doing as much as we managed to going into Endgame, because there's so many references and so much callbacks, and it all kind of ties together so well that I'm glad that we managed to do that as much as we could, and we've still continued. We've been continuing to watch them as we can, just in the sense that it still continues to give Endgame slightly a better.
Yeah, like while that's still fresh in our minds, we can still watch the other films to catch up to it, and we still go, oh yeah, that now ties into that, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the internet itself is just a wash. I mean, this week especially, and I think we kind of will try and leave spoilers aside for a different conversation. But,
absolutely.
But
for those of you who haven't seen it yet,
exactly, for the 3 people living under a rock somewhere, probably
down in Gore.
Yeah, exactly. I shouldn't have a movie theatre in Gore. You'd assume so.
Let's hope so. It's probably just the old townie with like the projection, hand crank projection,
cranking. I can say it stands at the back for 3 hours. Do that,
and then little old Doris with the little piano next to him.
Yeah, no. The movie soundtrack comes on a vinyl record.
That's right. That's it.
Like 6 pieces.
That's right.
Not maybe even longer, because you have to flip it as well. Like, we're just going down a massive side division here, but like. It's interesting as well, because that's where obviously the Russos have been on a campaign of and the writers as well have come out just answering all the questions about it,
or as many as they can.
As many as they can, even if they don't agree, which has been interesting too. But there's just so much stuff on the internet. It's like, if you've got any questions about it, you can pretty much find out what they were thinking about. There's one big thing that really bothers me that the writers mentioned, and we'll come to that another time. But it's been interesting then, because it's created another. I think it's almost a calculated plan, because they've created a second wave of news and information about it, because now everyone's like, oh, stuff I missed, and maybe this is intentional, maybe it's all about getting people to go back and watch it a second time, could be very interesting anyway.
And just pick up on the small things that they may have missed the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I'm sure there's people been out there to go see Endgame, 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Oh, well,
I mean, we've seen it once ourselves, but I'd still go see it again.
I told you about the news story about the guy who went and saw Captain Marvel for a record-breaking number of times.
That's right, yeah.
It would be even more mad doing that with Endgame because it's 3 hours long. Like, at least Captain Marvel was like one of the shortest films in the franchise.
Yeah, was it just under 100 minutes, I think it was?
Yeah,
Captain
like
Marvel,
yeah. Not the 3 hours.
Whereas Endgame, if you go see that multiple times a day, you better have a strong bladder.
Yeah, exactly. Jeepers. It's definitely a roller coaster for sure.
Yeah.
I can't believe how it went. So it's very impressive. We could spend an entire length of time probably talking about it, and we will. But later on, maybe we should just get onto other news because I feel like even I think we've looked at the list that you and I've kind of added to over the last day or so, and it's like we've got like at least half an hour of just comic book related stuff that's happened
for sure
since we last recorded, let alone all the other stuff that's came out. So maybe we'll just quickly go through what we've come up with. So I'll let you continue. I'll let you pick up.
Okay, so we've got here the Stan Lee cameo compilation. Now that was announced was it a box of all 22 films together? They're going to have like a short film of all of Stan Lee's cameos.
Wow.
As well, just as instead of seeing them in the film as well, but just so you can have them back to back. And it wouldn't surprise me if they have a behind the scenes from a few of them as well, the more memorable ones.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Or at least interlinked into it, and then show you that one from that movie.
The question I want to ask is, now that Disney owns Fox, do you think they will include all the rest of the Fox related cameos just as a bonus? So you think about all the other times, because there'll probably be a little mini doc they would go with.
I hadn't thought of that. That's a good call.
Because obviously those cameos go right back to X-Men and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So they'd have to get
was the
Sony.
deal? Did the deal include the the Fox library though?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
It'll end up on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Oh, then yeah, I'd be interested to see if they do that then.
Because all the Fox ones, obviously, at least they could possibly put in or reference to it anyway.
Unless they just make it a whole Stan Lee cameo compilation on its own, without being it.
The only other things they'd have to do for that, and I don't think they would for a special feature, license the Sony ones.
Yeah.
But, they've got a standing deal with Sony on the rights to Spider-Man, and so they might just say, hey, we're doing this thing for Stan Lee, and we want to talk about the cameos in movies. Who knows?
I wonder if they'll include, was it the Trial of the Incredible Hulk and Mallrats?
Mallrats. So, they've got to make reference to Mallrats now that it's actually a meta reference.
Yeah.
Like, you'd hope that they'll be able to get, they would have, again, Universal, who they do have a working relationship to, related to the Hulk, so... Don't know, but anyway, yeah, it'll be interesting. Did they announce anything else with that box set? I knew there's this box set. Obviously, all 22 films will be out by the end of the year.
As far as I know, I think it's just like the 22 films and potentially with the Stan Lee compilation in it. But I haven't heard anything more.
Probably
whether it'll be like a
discs and stuff like that.
Say whether there are the Blu-ray versions, the American versions, where it comes with like each series has like the Tesseract, the Power Stone, and the Mind Stone as like the phases. That's the word I was looking for. So it'd be interesting to me to maybe, if they have this big box set, it comes with the Infinity Stones, perhaps.
The other thing that's got me puzzled too, and we'll probably continue to talk about this a little bit, is that Endgame's not the end of Phase 3. There's still one more movie to come out of Phase 3. So is this set actually going to be 23 films? In which case, why will they release it around that time? Will they delay it slightly in December? Like, it makes more sense to release 23 film set, not a 22 film set.
Yeah, I think you're right in that aspect. They've kind of shot themselves in the foot in a way by saying Endgame is the end, no pun intended there, of the Infinity Saga of all the past 22 films, but Phase 3 ends with Spider-Man Far From Home. So it's kind of... in a way, without being too spoilery, that still ties into Endgame.
Yeah, that's why
a little bit as well.
It makes sense why now they've revealed this trailer. And we'll talk about this as well in another context. But it makes more sense that they would have that as part of it, because it's for them the fallout for exactly what's happened in Endgame needs to be kind of dealt with directly in regards to Spider-Man. So. I guess on that same note, though, like, Marvel's not officially announced anything other than what we already know is coming. Spider-Man's obviously one of them, comes out this year. We know in the future there'll be a Guardians 3. We know they've been announced for a Doctor Strange sequel and another Black Panther. vaguely talked about, but they haven't given any dates.
No.
But they haven't said anything. But they did release... Well, they set the dates for these films, though, that they've unannounced. So there's, 2 next year, and then 3 for each of the following years for the next 3 years after that or something.
But they just haven't necessarily said which movie's coming out when, as such.
But we know, obviously, that one of the production films that's supposed to start probably around June is a Black Widow film. And I've heard a few things other than just on the internet from other sources of where it's shooting in Europe and when, and it all kind of ties up to that same thing. It's pretty obvious that that's the movie that's coming out next year. That hasn't even been announced yet. It'll be, was it May next year? And it's like everyone's like, there's a secret Marvel movie that's due out in May next year, and nobody knows what it is. It's pretty obvious.
It wouldn't surprise me just to sort of pay off the last sort of main actors, I guess, because I think the main Avengers have sort of had their time in the sun, so it's definitely now more for all the newbies to sort of have their time in the sun, in my opinion. So it would make sense that that would be it, and then that could potentially be the last of
the original
Black Widow characters.
I don't know. I mean,
arc maybe,
but I mean, that obviously, without getting into spoiler territory, it's going to be very interesting to see how that relates to everything else. I want to talk more, but I don't really.
Yeah, we can't
with the potential for spoilers. But it's going to be very interesting. I think anyway.
One thing I'd like to see out of that too is of course just how it does tie into everything. With once again trying to be very cautious about what I say here.
Well, this is the same thing, and I guess we can use this as a kind of a good segue. Is that obviously Disney Plus is launching in November.
Yep.
I don't know about it here in New Zealand, but definitely is in the States. Basically 1 month after it launches November 12th. On December 11th, they're putting Endgame onto it. But they've also announced, obviously, a slate of Disney Plus shows. Now, we already heard about the Loki one, which, we can talk about this. Obviously, Loki's death in Infinity War, everyone's like, oh, okay, that's going to be interesting.
Awkward. And I think early rumours were that he's going to do a voiceover for a younger character anyway, or a younger actor.
But there was a discussion about it being like adventures through time and space. Like, did you see this? Like,
no, I didn't see that.
No. So I don't know quite how that's going to work either.
So they're turning it into an MCU Doctor Who?
Or an MCU Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
All right.
More specifically, if I wanted to get down that path. But yes, same thing, I guess. I don't know. Or Quantum Leap. There's another good.
Yeah, Quantum Leap. That's a good one. Yeah.
But obviously, on top of that, a Hawkeye show.
Yep.
Which, are you that interested in the Adventures of Hawkeye?
Well, there's a question. It depends on if it's Clint Barton.
Ooh,
because there have been multiple Hawkeyes.
That's true.
Throughout the comics run, and I definitely think that's probably where Disney will go.
Makes sense if they can tie up, Jeremy Renner for a short form series,
or at least 8 episodes. Pop in for a few episodes.
They haven't stated exactly how long these shows are going to run for.
No.
Is it 6 episodes, 8 episodes, 12 episodes, full seasons? They haven't said anything about it, so who knows? The other one, which I didn't read anything about, but I only the Wonder and Vision, or WandaVision as everyone's calling it, set in the 50s. What? Seriously? I have not read this. This is what I'm.
And see, we can't really talk much about this either because it's kind of spoiler, but kind of not.
It's kind of not. If you've seen Infinity War, then
if you've seen Infinity War, you know what happens there. But
okay.
Yeah,
there you go. It's still interesting. Set in the 50s. I'm a little bit confused.
So something happens there.
Something's gonna. Yeah, it's gonna be really weird. How does that work? I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I'm sure there's some genius.
They met in what was the new timeline now? Be 2014, I think. They established.
Is that when? That's when Civil War took place.
I think so. I think that's when the timeline was. I don't know.
Age of Ultron. Sorry.
The timeline's so confusing.
No.
Nowadays, but
I'm going to skip over the next thing because it's spoilers still. We've written down something that's real blatantly spoiler, and then we'll talk. But what we can do to segue this is obviously Disney has all these. You've established, you didn't realize this. So Disney has all these historical rights to things, including Marvel characters that come across. So obviously, Disney's focus is Disney Plus, and they just announced recently as well as part of that whole thing is that the Fox part of the production side of Disney's going to get out on average 5-6 movies a year, which is about half of what Fox currently does.
Yeah.
They do about 12 movies a year, and Disney only does usually 8 to 10 big movies a year, to be honest, on an average year. So it's about, and that's what they've kind of reduced it down to, but they're about making bigger box office over not smaller films, because they're obviously even something like Endgame's $350 million plus in budget, but it's about expectations of box office against that, I guess. So this means that they made changes. Part of the announcements, obviously, we'll talk about later on, but especially for Marvel, it's like X-Men under Disney is going to change things, but they've still got Dark Phoenix out very soon, which went through reshoots anyway and delayed. And then they've still got the New Mutants movie, which they've now pushed back again to 2020, and they've cancelled the Gambit film, which, funnily enough, we talked about, I think, just briefly touched on last time.
I think we did, yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting to see where they go with this kind of focus, because obviously it's one thing to say they're cancelling Fox, well, not cancelling Fox movies, but reducing Fox movies down, but obviously they can eventually move the rest of the Marvel characters across to the MCU and start making more Marvel films. But does that mean we're going to start seeing 3 films a year, and we're going to start seeing 4 films a year? And it's like, that's quite a lot. Like, that's one superhero movie every quarter, like every 3 months at minimum.
I kind of think that's the gamble that Disney want to try and run. I mean, if they do try and start including like the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and in the MCU, it's probably going to have to happen that way, and then they're probably going to have to start having maybe another Civil War, because there are 2 Civil Wars in the comics.
Yeah.
And then you'll have, say, your Shield Marvel characters, and then you'll have your X-Men characters sort of fighting in that Civil War. So,
and that's not even mentioning,
who knows?
That's not even mentioning the idea if they've gone down, they could easily go down this path of multiverses.
Exactly.
And so
you have people from everywhere then.
Yeah, exactly. And multiples of the same character.
Yeah, exactly.
Even. So this is going to be an interesting thing. It's funny, before Endgame came out, and someone said to me, I've been very much on the ride of Marvel films and these comic book films, but I think I need a break. And I said, oh no, I'm enjoying them. I'd probably look forward to more. But now it's almost like, having talked to them since, they're actually like, oh yeah, I'm kind of interested to see where this is going. And I'm kind of like, I could almost do with a bit of a break now, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, after this year, it's like I could go with a couple of years without real big movies. And I'm like, it's not going to happen. Disney's not going to let that happen.
No,
Nobody's going to let that happen.
They've been on so much of a roll, I think. It's just become ingrained in our minds and our culture now to go, oh yeah, Disney, Marvel's got a new movie out, let's go see that. But if you actually sort of step back and look at it and go, oh, they've actually put out quite a bit and I'm quite fried from them. I might just let it go, and then, if I really want to go see it, I'll go make it worth my time. Because
at this point now, I mean, I think you're the same. Have you seen every Marvel film pretty much at cinemas since maybe after Iron Man? Did you even see Iron Man at the movie?
No, I didn't see the first one or Incredible Hulk. I actually think the first one I saw may have been the first Avengers. I think, so I don't even think I saw Captain America or Thor either.
Okay,
now
so
that I think of it. Yeah.
I skipped Thor, but I saw everything else.
Yeah, it might have been Avengers was my first one at the cinema.
But there's still like a huge chunk of them, and you've not missed one since then, since the Avengers.
No.
So I don't think I've missed one since Captain America, the first Avenger, and even then before that I saw The Incredible Hulk and Iron Man. So like, that's 21 out of 22 films. Yeah. 23 if I go see Spider-Man. Which I probably will.
Yeah, let's be honest.
Exactly. It's just when does it end? And this is the same thing that Star Wars is facing. People talk about the fatigue of Star Wars, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to give it a break after this year's one," but the break isn't that long, which we'll get to later on. But like, when does the wall get hit? Like what designates that wall? Like when your Ant-Man tier movie only makes $200 million as opposed to $1 billion, does that mean it was just, is it a flop film? Do you make more of those? Like, what does this mean for Captain Marvel, which made 1 point, maybe it was made 1.1 plus worldwide?
I definitely think that's what Star Wars has suffered from too, because Solo definitely took a hit.
But on the market. Part of that is not just the brand of Star Wars. Part of it is everyone was like, do I really need to see a Solo film?
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. Like, I had no doubts that the last of the Skywalker trilogy, as they're calling it now, will do amazing box office because everyone's hyped. Even if you didn't like Last Jedi that much, you're probably going to see it to see the conclusion. It's just a simple fact.
Because it's the wrap of the Skywalker saga.
Exactly, and you're going to see they're like, oh, well, and it'd be different if it was someone else you didn't like. If Trevorrow had continued to do it, maybe there'd be a little bit more. Yeah, but just J.J. Abrams, relatively safe. Like nobody's going to expect the Last Jedi all over again.
No, and I mean on that note, he's said that he's going to retcon Rey's parents as well, which I think Rian Johnson is.
Well, he's fine with,
yeah.
Which is not that surprising.
I mean, but in my opinion, I still reckon that line in Last Jedi where Kylo Ren says to Rey that, spoilers by the way, that Rey's parents were like just junkyard people and they didn't care about her. I still reckon that's him playing mind tricks. So
trying to convince her.
Yeah, trying to convince her to turn. But so in a way, I don't think it's retconning as such. It's just Abrams had a vision in mind when he started Force Awakens, and Johnson just sort of jumped in there and went, "Oh, I'm going to do my thing."
But it's interesting. The thing that I don't get about that, and I still don't to even now, even within the movie, that whole scene where she, basically gets called by the Force, and she tries to ask what her parentage is, and it doesn't show her, even though it should in theory. Doesn't must mean something. So I always just assumed in the movie that was always supposed to be left ambiguous, and even Kylo Ren's things was always supposed to be under question for that reason. Yeah. That do you think he's telling the truth? That was the actual question. It wasn't about the actual parentage. It was about the question of it. We'll come back to Star Wars because there's some more stuff I want to talk about. But we'll just wrap up the last of the comic book stuff because we've only got a few things I wanted to talk about. You've written down the stuff about the in-game writers, which is they've been doing a lot of talking about reinventing Cyclops for the MCU. I'll let you.
Yeah, so I read an article the other day that the in-game writers, I can't remember which ones exactly, but they wanted to reinvent Cyclops for the MCU, and this kind of asks the question of, if, I guess, Dark Phoenix does well, are they going to potentially go another, I won't say solo X-Men film per se, but just another X-Men film more focused on a single character like Cyclops, therefore needing the purpose to reinvent him? And will they use the same actor, or will they recast him for a third time?
I think at this stage they're going to establish that the X-Men franchise as it stood from 2000 will end with Dark Phoenix. Yeah. I don't even know if New Mutants is even going to be involved in it, and that will probably be why Disney through Fox has delayed it again, because they haven't actually done any reshoots for it. It's just been delayed and delayed and delayed. So maybe at this point they're trying to work out how they can establish it as a new canon. Yeah, moving forwards. It
wouldn't surprise me if they do start it, because their timeline's kind of almost as messy as the MCU's.
Oh, it's messier. Well, easily messier. Yeah. It doesn't. There's bits that just don't even make sense anymore, and that's just because of the way. I mean, it's even the fact that we're going through a second Dark Phoenix saga, essentially, even though it still happened in the timeline, but it kind of didn't happen in the timeline because Days of Future Past changed the timeline. Yeah. Yeah.
And you love that stuff.
Oh, God, my brain hurts.
Yeah.
Going back to the MCU, though, like, it's good moving forward. We have stuff I'm looking forward to. I'm not so sure about a Doctor Strange sequel or, Black Panther. I definitely came for more of that. I did no idea how that would work. Black Panther was good. But my top, if I am going to go see something, is going to be Guardians 3. Especially now that James Gunn is back. It just makes sense to me, and it was so ridiculous, the whole situation, but I'm just glad he's back. There was cast members from Guardians coming up to Endgame, put out tweets and messages and interviews talking about it, and they've all been very positive. Vin Diesel and Karen Gillan have both been very outspoken of late, but obviously Dave Bautista's said stuff in the past.
Yeah, he said he'd quit.
He'd quit if he wouldn't. So they've all been very positive. James Gunn's literally starting production on Suicide Squad 2 now, which is not really Suicide Squad 2. It's whatever it ends up being.
I think I read somewhere it's Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad.
Which I thought was kind of clever, but it probably won't stick.
It probably won't stick. But it's because it has returning cast members from the first, but then
It's also got new cast
new
as
cast,
well.
and then they were going to do some replacement cast, but they're not doing the replacement cast now. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting anyway.
Yeah.
But I did see, I don't know if you saw this, you saw Michael Rooker?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that.
I'd heard a rumour, I don't know how true it is, but because he was Yondu and he had that giant fin, that he could be King Shark.
Oh, yeah, someone had said
So,
this. Yeah,
but he could just be a completely unrelated character, but it would be funny.
But that would be funny. You also had written down earlier about Dwayne Johnson.
Yep.
I'll let you talk about this.
Yeah, so Dwayne, I read something a while ago that Dwayne Johnson said that shooting for Black Adam should start next year, and I say that in quotations, should.
I'm sure we've heard this before too, that's what I was about to say about
yeah. So that'll be loosely tied into Shazam too, if there's going to be one, because I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, is Dwayne Johnson going to be in Shazam?
Yeah, of course.
And, I don't think he was, especially as a child, so to speak, but he could have been for all I know.
Yeah.
So they could retcon that in a Shazam 2 maybe, or depending on what other universe they want to turn that into.
Yeah,
now.
well, that's a
That the
confusing mess of
DC
itself.
EU's all over the place.
Yeah, it's all over the place by itself. And we've still got Wonder Woman for next year as well.
Oh, of course. 1984.
84. But
that's
then
it.
apparently it's not a sequel. I don't understand this. It's its own thing? I don't know. I'm so confused. This is the bit that you start to lose people's interest. Like, how you try to establish the idea of a continuity, but not a continuity, and each movie has to be standalone, but then if they're just a completely separate thing, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting.
You need to establish your timeline, people.
Well, it's not even about timeline. It's just about setting what that actually is. Whether or not it is a timeline or not. If you say specifically, right, every Wonder Woman movie going to come out is just going to be separate and has nothing to do, that's fine, but the problem is you've had the character established in 2 other movies outside of the Wonder Woman movie.
All right, I see.
And it's set a kind of expectations that makes it much more confusing. The last comic book thing I've written it underneath the comic book comics, but I wanted to talk about was the Hellboy release.
Yep.
Because obviously still is a comic. Complete flop.
Yeah.
Not
surprising anybody.
Not surprising. It wasn't massive reviews, but it was more interesting that it's become a flop that nobody's really paid much attention to because of Endgame and because of all the other stuff going on. It's kind of just been went out there and was in and out so quickly that people have kind of forgotten it even existed and it was a thing this year.
Yeah.
And it was unfortunately the worst timing imaginable for it. I'm still curious to go see it, but I don't think it's still even screening probably.
Don't know. I would have to look it up.
But at the very least, I will see it at some point because I'm still curious. The trailers did not appeal to me, but now I'm even more curious because
for that reason,
it's been so overshadowed that it wasn't even worth people. Should people have actually paid attention to it?
No, I think the only thing that I think I mentioned this in one of our last podcasts. The only thing that really excited me was that he had his fire crown, which he didn't have in the past 2 movies. But other than that, the rest of the movie just doesn't look appealing. But we'll see what happens if we can go see it.
Yeah, definitely. Or at the very least, once it comes out on DVD or whatever.
Exactly.
We'll talk about it then. I'll let you talk about this because I didn't see this, but we're going to move away from the comic book stuff. But
general news now.
Yeah, we'll talk about trailers and bits and pieces and try to avoid going back to comic books unless we really have to. Harrison Ford?
Yeah, so like we said earlier, we've been on hiatus for about a month or so. Now, just after our last episode, I read an article where Harrison Ford and Calista Flockhart and their son, I forget his name, sorry.
Not that important.
No, clearly not. They were on holiday in, I think, Queenstown or Wanaka, and they were swimming in like one of the water holes there, and a woman went up to Harrison Ford, sort of not nosy as such, but she's like along the lines of, "Are you Richard Gere?
You look familiar."
Yeah, you look familiar. Are you Richard Gere?" and apparently, in typical Harrison Ford style, he just went, "No." But apparently, I read this article like 3 or 4 different places, and they all roughly had the same sort of description. Apparently, the woman kept pestering him, saying that he is Richard Gere.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So, I don't know how she actually found out it was Harrison Ford.
Or someone else.
Or someone else had told her after the fact.
And just Imagine being that person.
I know. If by sheer chance that woman or Harrison Ford are listening, that's a great story. I mean, I don't know if that I don't know if that would ever happen to me. Like I'd mistake someone famous for someone else famous.
We've talked about this we've talked about this personally before about people getting like Lawrence Fishburne
and Samuel L. Jackson
confused.
Yeah.
Which I still don't even understand.
No.
I don't even see the resemblance between Harrison Ford and Richard Gere. Like,
No. I mean, see, to me, I kind of think it's a no-brainer. I'd probably go, it's Harrison Ford.
what's
Harrison Ford? Yeah.
What is he doing here?
Exactly, yeah. I'd be like
then
that.
you know who Harrison Ford is. Maybe that's it. She didn't recognize Harrison Ford.
Well, she probably recognised him, but just couldn't actually think of his name. And
thought,
Richard Gere popped in, yeah.
Oh, I've got those two things.
You know, sort of, white-haired older gentleman. You know.
Jeepers.
Who knows? Maybe if that happens to one of us, we can tell that story and see what happens.
Randomly bumping. I can't say that I've no.
No.
I don't think I've got. I've definitely got muddled on names trying to remember someone's name, but I don't go out and just say something about the name without thinking about it. Very often, I think everyone makes a mistake at some point, but yeah, that's kind of a funny one. That's really embarrassing. I feel sorry for that woman. I don't feel sorry for Harrison Ford. I think it's hilarious.
No, I should have just pulled out like his trusty side pistol. Whether it's the one from Star Wars or Indiana Jones, you take your pick. Or even from Blade Runner, for that matter.
Blade Runner, yeah, of course. I'll let you continue.
We'll go into other news. There was a rumour that Rush Hour 4 is coming out.
Is this actually a rumour? I thought it had been confirmed. Like, I saw this on your list. And...
Well, to be fair, it's still rumour on my list because I hadn't done any more research, so it could still be a rumour.
Well, I'm meaning going way back that it was supposed to be happening ages ago, and it's been delayed. And Jackie Chan's never been shy about saying he originally took Rush Hour on to do because of the money, because it was an easy project, and yeah, there have been some of his most successful films. So of course, signing up for sequels has never been a problem.
I think it's just like sorry, just to interrupt. I think it's like Mission Impossible. It's like, how many ways can we kill Jackie Chan?
Like Jackie Chan tries to kill Jackie Chan. And Chris Tucker at one stage, I was going to say, got paid like, what was it, $20 million, $25 million or something?
I think so,
something insane to come back for the third one, which was like the biggest take of any actor without back end stuff ever at the time. It's quite crazy. So I just always assumed it was on the cards. They're getting quite old now.
Yeah, they both definitely are. I mean, Chris Tucker doesn't look like early 2000s Chris Tucker anymore. He definitely looks much older. And I won't say unrecognisable, but at first glance, you'd probably go, it's not Chris Tucker.
It kind of looks like Chris Tucker.
Yeah, it looks like Chris Tucker, but it's not.
Oh, are you Richard Gere?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They probably think it's Chris Rock.
Chris Rock, oh gosh, that's not bad. But and Jackie Chan, he still looks the same. He's I saw him. He can still do action stuff. I saw him do The Foreigner. That was amazing. He was really good in that. I don't have any question that the two of them can bring their particular talents.
And I think
I just how far that stretches into the realms of believability. They're kind of at that I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah.
Space now.
I kind of think getting both Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan back would be good, because the TV show just flopped hard.
I forgot there wasn't even. I forgot there even was a TV show.
I think it was like scheduled for like a whole season of like 20 episodes or something, but I don't even think it made 8.
That's not a surprise.
Wow. I don't know. I think I saw half of one episode and I was like, this is terrible, and I didn't even.
Well, that explains it.
Think
really,
much of it. So,
speaking of terrible, I'm gonna segue from terrible.
Yep.
A prequel to Grease.
Yeah.
Really? So apparently it's that I saw the rumor title was like Summer Lovin'.
Yeah,
because it's going to be about the
what
summer.
It's going to be.
Yeah. About
so the opening song from Grease of Summer Loving, that's pretty much what the movie's going to be about, of how Danny saved Sandy's life from her drowning in the beach, and what that entails as well. So it'll be, yeah.
No.
See, now I'm a fan of Grease, but
no.
I just don't know how I feel about this. Like, do we really need it? Like you were saying before, like the solo film, do we really need it?
Do we really? Yeah.
I mean, just for those people that don't know, there's also a sequel called Grease 2 with Michelle Pfeiffer, but I've never seen it. I don't want to see it.
It's actually not that bad. I've seen it. All
right.
It's not that bad, but
I may check it out one day.
It's not. It's just a sequel in the sense it's different characters. There's some tie over, but you'd be better off revisiting the universe essentially of Grease almost, and kids that went to the same high school and doing a different musical out of it. That would seem like a better idea than a prequel to me. But hey, whatever. A bunch of trailers. We're going to just kind of talk about them. I mean, there's a bunch back and forth. We'll kind of go through this. It was another Lion King trailer. I'm kind of hopeful that it just come out now and we can stop talking.
Yeah.
The more I see about it, the more I'm confused about why you're even bothering. Like, still, but as I've admitted many times, I'm not the target audience. I don't think.
No, especially now. Like, it could still be good for like the nostalgia purposes, like we talked about previously. But I think, as far as it being live action, it's not.
Oh, it's still animated.
Yeah, it's still technically an animated film. It's got to have people in it, damn it.
To be live action, yes. But it's like, how much change are they going to make in the movie itself? I mean, we've flogged this dead horse several times, but anyway, the trailer does not beholden me to think
help, no.
that that's gonna change anytime soon. It looks more of the same. If you've seen the animated movie, you're probably going to go on with very minimal changes and minimal surprises, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's different to go from, if it was a book and you were making it into a film, it's different to keep that the same than it is to say remake the film as another film and not change it.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Aladdin's coming out, and I've already heard discussions about some of the changes they've made, which obviously comes from it. But it's like, that kind of makes more sense, and it's live action. There's actual actors.
Yeah, that's
There was another trailer for Child's Play, but this was the first one post
the actual trailer. Yeah,
actual trailer. The first one post the reveal of Mark Hamill doing the voice. The trailer doesn't really show him off doing the voice so much, but they did show. I don't know if you'd seen this. I wrote this on here, but they put up a little Twitter poster thing, an animated poster, and it has him laughing. Like stabbing a knife and laughing, and it sounds very much like the Joker, but just short, just like a kind of.
The one thing I did say was the one thing I did see rather was a poster of, I think, Chucky's foot and a knife, sort of just off to the side of the frame, and what looks to be a cowboy doll holding a hat. Because it's stuffing coming out of its arm, because Toy Story 4 and Child's Play come out the same day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, does it just ruin my childhood?
Well, to be fair, Chucky turned up in Ready Player One and stabbed a bunch of people. So
that's true.
You got to remember this.
That is true. I'll give you that.
Chucky, but anyway, the trailer. I wasn't that enthused about the original trailer. It was quite generic. The new one looks slightly better, but not by much. I have no idea what it's going to be. I suspect it won't do that well, but you never know. It could be good.
The whole premise of this one, if you haven't seen the trailers yet, is that Chucky's still a good guy doll, but he's now like app compatible, so he can be like used with like your phone, your tablet, or whatever, and he can also, through the internet, he can access like a whole bunch of stuff, like your house if you've got an automated house.
Stuff, yeah.
So he's practically like, how do I describe this? He's Ultron in Age of Ultron. He takes over a whole bunch of AI. So to speak.
Now, that still leads me to be interested where his origin comes from, because are they trying to say it's a sentient AI that takes over, or is there still going to be some sort of weird killer motif? Because obviously has to be some reason why it goes on a crazy killing
spree. Yeah. I reckon it's probably like a faulty chip or something, if that's the case, or something some pissed off workers programmed.
I'm still more curious, only because Hamill's doing the voice and really kind of weird creepiness. Sure. We might as well continue back to the Star Wars things. We're talking about Mark Hamill.
Yep.
You've already mentioned the Rey's parents thing. There was obviously another trailer for Star Wars. Obviously revealed the title. This was why we're away. It was a huge reveal. Shocked the internet. And then the same week and a half before Endgame, and now the conversations are quieting down a little bit, I think. But still obviously very shocking. I'll let you talk about it. I'm a big Star Wars fan, but I think you're the biggest Star Wars.
I'm more the resident Star Wars
fans. We're both wearing Star Wars t-shirts right now, which is quite funny that I say that.
This was not planned at all.
It wasn't planned at all. They're not the same t-shirt, by the way. They're two different t-shirts. Just so people.
No, we've learned that lesson, which we'll get into for another day. So the Star Wars 9 trailer came out to a lot of fanfare, and it definitely kind of mirrored The Force Awakens a little, where you see Rey on a desert planet, once again unknowing of where it is, but I'm assuming it's Jakku, because it would probably wrap up her story as well. It would wrap up quite nicely, similar to how it did with Luke, so he started on Tatooine, and then he didn't really end on Tatooine, but he went back there at the Return of the Return of the Jedi. So, might be the same sort of thing there. And, typical Kylo Ren sort of coming down the desert in similar shot to Rey's speeder from Force Awakens. So there's probably still that connection there as well.
Makes sense.
And, whether Kylo Ren's still trying to turn her or, what else. And yeah, I'm still waiting for another trailer to come out and see if there's more revealed.
There's obviously got to be.
I'm definitely seeing it no matter what.
The thing, obviously, that was probably the biggest shot in the reaction, because obviously it was part of Star Wars Celebration, and then the trailer went online as well, was the final 10 seconds.
Yeah, the title card, absolutely.
Well, before the title card, the last, the laugh and the shot of the remains of the second Death Star, which
you'd actually pointed out to me. I didn't even notice it. Like, I saw they were looking at something, but I couldn't even really tell what it was.
The first time I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's a weird thing. And then I watched the trailer for the second time. I was like, oh, wait, hang on. That's the Death Star. How did I not notice that before? And then, I said to you, hey, did you notice the Death Star? And it was that thing. And you were like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you have to go back and look. And you looked at it and went, oh, my God, how did I miss that? It's so obvious.
It definitely asks the question, if it is the second Death Star, what planet are they on? Because the only closest planet to the second Death Star at the time was Endor.
That's not Endor.
And it doesn't look very foresty to me.
No.
Looking at that planet. Unless, I don't know, somehow that the explosion was so great it launched it somewhere else into the Star Wars galaxy, or...
I just have this picture of the end of Spaceballs.
Yeah, exactly. Or, or for all we know, it could be like a potential...
Sorry. What's that coming out of his nose?
Oh, shit.
Spaceballs. There goes the planet.
We digress. We've caught.
Sorry, it's just it was the idea of launching off into space.
Sorry. What's I talking about? That's right.
Mel Brooks called it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I kind of have a feeling that it could be maybe like a First Order's attempt to try and build a Death Star. So it could be that as well. So it could be like like you could be right. It could be the second Death Star, but it could just be like Death Star 3 perhaps trying to be built, or it was built but that failed, and that could be the remains that we've seen. But I guess we'll find out come December.
It could be a lot of misdirection. You're completely right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally the case. It is one of those things where you never know. I mean, just the secrecy's so tight. Excuse me. Secrecy's so tight. That, and obviously trailers, sometimes they want to misdirect them with a series. So looked forward to. It's very, it keeps a lot of secrets, and whether or not future trailers will show more or too much, I guess is yet to be determined.
Yeah, and there was also Billy D. Williams in there as well.
Yes, of
in
course.
The shot too.
Yeah.
Excuse me. There was a lot of speculation whether he would come back for any of the most recent films, and of course he comes back in this one.
He's wearing an outfit that's very similar to the one in Solo. Enough, as everyone's been pointing out.
So he's probably had that somewhere hanging up at Cloud City, and he just for some reason decided to pull that one out instead of his classic blue.
Yeah, maybe he's thinking about Han and Han's death, and
potentially, yeah.
He finds out.
Somehow that news got to Cloud City, or maybe he doesn't even know, but we'll find out, I guess. But he seemed pretty happy to be back in the cockpit of the Falcon.
That's true. It is technically his ship originally, so
yeah.
Well, not originally, because he got it.
He won it in a game of sabacc from someone else.
Exactly.
And then Han Solo won it in a game of sabacc from him.
I wonder if we find out whose ship it was before him.
Don't know.
Is this where we're going?
Come on, Disney. Give us Lando. You've given us Solo.
Given us Solo, we get a Lando film. It's even earlier prequel.
I'm kidding, Disney. Please don't. we don't actually need a Lando, so I retract that statement.
I will let you segue into the sad news as well in the last week.
Yep.
Which we were obviously, if you've been online, you would have seen.
Yeah, sad news. We lost Peter Mayhew, Chewbacca. For those of you who don't know who he actually was, I know in the most recent years, I think I'd read multiple times over the past few years that his health was declining, but even still, this was a hell of a shock because I don't think he had anything too serious. I think it just might have been sort of age and his bones sort of breaking down caught up to him.
In The Force Awakens, he was still playing Chewbacca when he was sitting.
Yeah, he was still Chewbacca at The Force Awakens every time he sat down.
Sat anywhere.
And I thought,
or leaning against stuff.
Yeah, sort of leaning or standing still, but not really running.
Moving.
It was that younger, was he Swedish?
Yeah,
I think that, who still does a hell of a good job.
Yeah, it's about getting the mannerisms right, and he obviously just worked with him.
And I think they trained closely together for, I don't know, a good couple of years before Force Awakens came out, or at least even still through that.
Yeah, and obviously he, Mayhew was there for the second film as well. He just wasn't in the suit, but he was part of the production.
Yeah, he was more on set to help the other guy with the mannerisms.
I don't know about this, the most recent one. Beforehand, I think, as you were saying, his health had kind of declined a certain degree. But very, very sad. Lots of very touching tributes. Harrison Ford, going back to Harrison Ford, wrote a really, really nice one. Obviously, he spent a lot of time working with him. George Lucas wrote a really nice one about what he'd originally envisioned for the character and what Mayhew actually brought to the character, which he said he was such a gentle giant that he couldn't have been the type of person that the character was supposed to be very rough and tumble and raw and
it's
angry.
complete opposite.
And it's the complete opposite, and he said it came through in his performance, but it made the character better for it. It's very interesting seeing all these things, and obviously it's getting to that point. People keep forgetting it's like all these actors that were in the original Star Wars trilogy were in their 30s, and now we're coming up to
40 years. It's been 42 since
Star Wars.
New Hope.
Yeah, so it's like this is just the way things are going to be. People just have to keep reminding themselves of that. It's a bit of a sad thing. On the other I think it was the same day or the day on either side, John Singleton, famous director, also died. Singleton was the youngest to win the Oscar, as I recall, at the time for directing.
I think so, yeah.
I don't know if that's changed. I do definitely remember the time with Boys in the Hood. Amazing film, definitely worth watching if you've never seen it. He had a very up and down career, kind of post his Oscar, but he was always very well respected for his craft and a very, very good director. Just some amazing films over the years. One of his least... I can kind of segue this, but one of my least favourite films of his was Too Fast, Too Furious, which, as filmmaking craft goes, was perfectly fine, but not the best highlight of the franchise.
No.
But he was given a task to transplant that original movie to Miami and basically do it without Vin Diesel and his involvement. So it just followed Paul Walker, in Miami. It was such a ridiculous movie. I still can't get over that last jump onto the boat needs the Dukes of Hazzard.
I'm sure that's out there somewhere.
It probably is. But going sideways from that, the reason I mentioned the Fast and Furious franchise is obviously there was a new trailer for Hobbs and Shaw.
Yep.
And I'm still not endeared to it.
No.
It doesn't look good. They showed off way more this time, and it's almost too much, I want to say. Like, I could pretty much follow the task of the movie. You've got them getting beaten in London and going to Samoa, I'm guessing.
Yeah, going back to Hobbs's home
and his family. It's kind of... It shows way too much.
And it seems to be like a battle in Samoa.
Yeah.
So it looks to be...
That'd be the third act.
Yeah.
And then they've shown way too much. It's just a ridiculous trailer.
And on that note too, I actually saw something the other day that there may be a spin-off featuring Charlize Theron's character now as well.
It wasn't even that... She wasn't even that good. I like Charlize Theron.
Don't blame me.
Yeah, I like Charlize Theron, but she was not the strongest point of that movie. Part of that was writing. It wasn't her attempts. It was just the writing. But she wasn't the most memorable. I'd rather see a spin-off movie of Shaw's brother.
Yeah.
Deckard Shaw. His brother. I can't remember his name. He was the bad guy in 6, was it? Or 7? I forget. They were starting to blend. Yeah, they were starting to blend. I'd rather see that, to be honest. But anyway. And funny enough, the shooting.
Luke Evans.
Luke Evans.
I think that might have been it.
Yeah, the shoot for the next Fast and Furious itself starts I think it's this week or next week. Very, very soon.
Very soon.
As well, so it's a lot of that. But obviously, we'll see where Hobbs and Shaw goes. I don't have high hopes.
No.
And I kind of hope it doesn't do that well. And people just go, right, cool, let's stick to the main franchise and finish it out at 10 like we planned.
Yeah, let's stick to that, please.
We have 2 more movies to go. You did see that John Cena might be turning up in that, just to add to the wrestling.
It's the whole wrestling thing, because in the Hobbs and Shaw film, of course, Dwayne Johnson's real-life cousin Joe Anoa'i, I think I said that right, who's Roman Reigns in the WWE. He's got probably a minor role, I would imagine, in that film, but supporting role, thank you. But I'd seen a picture of Vin Diesel. I think he shared to Twitter and God knows where else, Instagram, yeah. And it had John Cena in the background, and he mentioned something about Fast and Furious.
And he just gives like a thumbs up or a wave or something.
Yeah, so now we've potentially got John Cena in the Fast and Furious franchise.
Not a surprise, to be honest.
So
Cena's surprisingly got the same. Maybe it's unfair to compare him to Dwayne Johnson, but he's definitely got the chops to pull it off. Having seen what he's done in the last couple of years, acting wise, he's very funny. He's got a pretty broad comedic range, and he can do action. So I feel like it's not that much of a stretch.
No, we'll just see what happens. Whether that was just he was just in the background of the shot, but I think the internet's blowing up over it. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, you never know what this can. You just honestly don't know.
No.
Speaking of, I don't even know how to get to this. I was just going to let you do it, but I'll let you do it.
That's all right. Okay, I can't even think of how to get to it either. It's a hard one.
How do we get from wrestler to this? Well, we go from wrestler to rapper.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. John Cena does have a rap album.
Oh, God.
That'll work. That'll work as our segue. Okay, we'll go from wrestling to rapping.
From wrestler rappers to rapper non-wrestlers.
Yeah. Rapper actors. We'll go to that.
Yeah, rapper actors.
So, Bad Boys 3, starring Will Smith. There's my rapper. Thank you. I'll take that. Has wrapped up. I think.
Not the same type of rap.
Yeah, not the type rap that's a WR. Poor choice of words. What am I doing?
I'm keeping that in. That's so funny.
I know. So, yeah, Bad Boys 3 filming has wrapped. So, I think that's due out to summer next year, I think it was. Yeah, 2020. It's the same time. No, it's not the same time. Or is it? Is Bill and Ted 3? I think that starts next year. Or does it start summer this year? No, they're both out summer next year. I remember now.
Provided that gets underway soon.
Yeah, Bill and Ted 3 starts this year filming and then comes out next year. I just remember.
All right. So around the same time.
Yeah. And speaking of Will Smith, there was a Gemini Man trailer come out as well.
Now, we talked about this because of the CinemaCon, and there was a lot of people going, wow, look at that as young Will Smith versus Will Smith. And then you see that trailer and you're like, okay, yeah, now I understand.
Yeah.
Damn. It was insane because the shots that they give you to begin with hint at the fact that you're looking at the back of young Will Smith and you're kind of like, it looks like Will Smith, but is that Will Smith? I don't know. And then you realise that it's supposed to be young Will Smith, right down to the style of haircut.
Sort of mid-90s flat top buzz cut.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's really convincing. There's a few odd shots here and there that might go, but generally...
I'd say by the time it fully comes out, they probably would have, perfected those more and smooth them out. But
the plot may be not too. I don't know where it's going. It seems kind of a little bit generic, but I'm curious enough, and I think that's what's going to get bums in the seats. And if the movie ends up being good, then it might do well. That's the thing. I think that's the interesting thing. It's interesting what seeing this whole young Will Smith thing. I'll kind of sidestep for a little bit, but you obviously. Both of us had seen that retake on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air called Bel-Air, and obviously Will Smith posted up a video where he talked to the director of that short, and it almost seems like, I don't know what, they having a meeting to try and get that off the ground as an actual idea, then maybe it'll happen.
I'd love to see that, because if you haven't seen it, it was a short called Bel-Air, and it's a reimagining of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and it's just... It's set in modern day, and it's just so cool.
It is really cool. If you haven't seen it, what I would suggest you do instead is look up Will Smith's YouTube page and just watch the interview, because the trailer's at the end of it anyway. Yeah. And then you get to hear a bit of the creative process that he talks to the director and some of the producing people about, and then you see the trailer. But I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he turned around and said, "Hey Quincy, we're gonna make this happen."
Yeah.
And his production company ends up producing it, and they put it on Netflix or something crazy. It wouldn't surprise me.
Well, that's what I thought it was at first anyway. When I first saw it, I thought, "Is this Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or something?" And I thought, maybe it was a Netflix series. But it was just it was just like a sort of a fan trailer, so to speak.
Yeah, but very reimagining, yeah. And the idea, taking it more seriously, taking the bits that were serious. People were very applauding the main actor that's playing Will in it for being able to crack the Will Smith high, as well, and getting it right, just pitch perfect when he cracks. It was quite good. I kind of want to go sideways. We were talking about old stuff in the 90s to go to Jurassic Park / Jurassic World.
Yep.
You were written this. I didn't read this. More practical dinosaurs, and then make the next one. So
Yeah, I was reading somewhere that because in Jurassic World 2 they had a lot more practical effects and dinosaurs than they did in the first Jurassic World, and I think with the third one they want to do a lot more of that, like they did with the original Jurassic Park, because over the time of those 3 films, they became more CG and less practical as well. So they're kind of going in reverse in a way. So
they realise that the films hold up better when they have a mixture.
Yeah.
Because Jurassic Park, the original especially, holds up for a movie that's now
almost 25 years old.
Yeah, it's 25 years, more than 25 years old now. You know, it holds up really, really well. And even seeing it when I saw it in 3D, however long that was 5 years ago, that was really impressive as well. I sorted, I don't know if you saw this as well, but speaking of that, Laura Dern was asked a bunch of questions, stuff to do with Star Wars, all that sort of stuff, but she was also asked if she'd been approached about the idea of coming back to revisit Ellie Sattler in the Jurassic World franchise, and she said that she hasn't been asked, but that she'd be keen. Like, without question, if she got asked, she'd do it, because she loves the character so much, and would love to come back to the world. Obviously, Ian Malcolm's come back through Jeff Goldblum. It would be nice to see if he's back again, to get him back, get her back.
I kind of think Jurassic World 2, sort of putting him in the trailers, was kind of a bad. Well, it's probably good and bad decision, because they go, oh, Jeff Goldblum's in this, I'm going to go see this now.
But probably play,
but probably bad because he's only bookended the movie.
Pretty much what's in the trailer is in the movie. It's only a little bit more than what's in those trailers.
So if you haven't seen Jurassic World 2 and you've seen the trailer, you don't need to see Jeff Goldblum in the movie. You've seen him already. So but and if Laura Dern does come back, I hope they don't do that to her, because she was pretty good in those films.
Yeah, you would hope it would be more substantial return to the character. And then the same if they brought back any of the others, or even Ian Malcolm again, they make better use of Jeff Goldblum. Yeah,
and hopefully they can get Sam Neill again for his third round.
That would be good to have the 3 of them back.
There's Dr. Grant.
Well, especially
Alan.
Alan. Especially if this ends up being, well, it probably won't be the last, but if they make one last Jurassic World movie, it would be nice to have that.
Have a double trilogy, yeah. Might as well have the original cast back.
Well, there's not even a double trilogy, because as far as the series is concerned, I think the events of the second and third film didn't exist.
That's true.
So I don't know if that actually is the truth, but I'm pretty sure that was what I remember reading.
Kind of related. I saw something a while ago. It was a trailer called The Velocipastor.
I had to ask about this because
not pasta as in the food, but as in a pasta as in like in a church. Now, what it is just still boggles my mind to think about it now. I don't even know why I'm talking about it. I thought it'd be funny. Is he's a were velociraptor. So he's like at church during the day or on Sunday, but at nighttime he becomes a velociraptor and kills people.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
And this is a movie.
It's an actual movie. It's like a C, D, E grade sort of film, very low budget.
Wow.
Sort of film. And I was like, what is this garbage?
Somebody really wanted to get something out of their system, eh? Though, like, I had this great idea for this movie with this velociraptor, but he's a pastor during the day, and at night it becomes a velociraptor and kills people. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. It's just one of those weird... I don't know. It could be like Sharknado, where people are like, what a weird concept, but it actually takes off. Who knows? But
who was I talking about?
Probably won't hear anything more about it.
Was it you or someone else was talking about? Do you remember the Kung Fury thing? And they're going to turn that into a feature film with Michael Fassbender's producing, and he's in it. And it
might have been me. I can't remember.
And it's just like, I might have been Stephen, friend Stephen. It's so ridiculous. Like, sometimes you get an idea and it works at some level, and obviously like Kung Fury is a good example of something that worked on one level. But then I think it worked really well as a short. And then when I saw the 30-minute one, it's like, there's some good moments in it, but it was like 30 minutes is kind of stretching the thing out. And now it's going to be a feature film of like 90 plus minutes. I'm like, I don't know about this. Like, does the Velocipastor seem like an idea that needed to be past like a 5-10 minute runtime? Probably not.
No.
Like,
I think it's probably going to be like 80-minute film.
Yeah.
Even still, to me, it's like, why waste your time?
I don't know. People were weird like that. There was another trailer for Godzilla, which I've seen the marketing.
The final one,
final trailer. But the marketing around here is labeling it as Godzilla 2.
Yeah.
The search for more money. Sorry,
Godzilla the blanket,
Godzilla
Godzilla the lunchbox, Godzilla the flamethrower.
You're getting more Spaceball references than you today. This is ridiculous. Excuse my ridiculous.
Thanks, Mel Brooks.
Thanks, Mel Brooks. At least it wasn't Get Lost, Mel Brooks. They always do this to our village. Oh, I've broken them.
I had water in my mouth. And it was so hard not to spit it out.
I'm glad you didn't. But the Godzilla 2, War of the Monsters, or whatever it's been called. I can't even remember. What is the subtitle? Is it War of the Monsters?
Yeah.
Yes,
I'll say
something?
yes.
I can't even remember what the subtitle is. Oh
Doesn't
my God.
matter. It's Godzilla
It looks
2.
insane. The early press screenings have come out, and so people are allowed to put up on Twitter like very brief summaries. Everyone's saying it is the tour de force of monster versus monster movie that everyone's been hoping it'll be, and that if you were worried about the previous one that Gareth Edwards did, that there was not much monster fighting, don't worry about that. This one, that's definitely lots of monster fighting.
I think I read somewhere it's got 11 monsters in it, or something, including Godzilla, or plus, excluding Godzilla. I can't remember, but. Yeah, it's at least a dozen different monsters from the Godzilla universe.
I didn't mind Edwards' Godzilla. I think thematically I liked the idea, I liked the reinvention. I liked Skull Island as well, Kong Skull Island. Mm-hmm. So this idea of having Kong and Godzilla in the same universe, cool. I'm okay with that too. On board with that.
Just don't mention the Mummy.
Well, no, that was separate. That was the Dark Universe. That's separate.
Yeah, but wasn't it? I thought it was part of that universe.
No.
Oh, my mistake.
Dark Universe was like...
All right, I won't mention the Mummy.
They don't mention the Mummy at all. That Dark Universe was like Mummy and Jekyll and Hyde and all that sort of stuff. No, this is the Monsters universe. But this seems to be working because they're just kind of still keeping them a little bit standalone right now. But anyway, I'm going to go see Godzilla 2. I think I'm going to go see it.
I'll probably go check it out. See how that works out.
Something I probably won't go and see, though.
Yep.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Well, unless they fix it, I reckon.
I don't even know if they my problem is that it doesn't look great yet. Sonic needs a reimagining, and they've already said they're going to do this. They're going to redesign him. Cool.
Yeah, the producers, directors, everybody.
Doesn't really sell me on the movie anymore, to be honest. When I think about that trailer, I'm like, yeah, Jim Carrey's probably the thing that's holding my interest right now.
He definitely looked like he'd be the one part to go and see it.
What I also thought was interesting was James Marsden in it, and then here's a shot of him in the car, and I was like, I've seen this movie before. It was called Hop.
Yeah.
And it had a rabbit. And this scene existed in that movie too. And then, funny enough, as I thought this, like a day later, I saw someone had put comparison pictures beside each other of those two movies. And I'm like, oh yeah, so I wasn't the only one who noticed that comparison. My other big issue, he's an alien. He's not a hedgehog then, people.
He's kind of implied that he's an alien,
Yeah, he's come to this planet, or our planet. I can't remember what he says. Something like that.
Or he's come to save Earth or something.
Save the planet. It implies he's an alien. So therefore, he's not a hedgehog.
No.
He's an alien. He just happens to look kind of like a hedgehog. I guess that's their explanation as to why he goes fast. Hedgehogs aren't fast, so therefore, I don't know.
And maybe why he can talk as well, and he's a biped.
Yeah. The internet's having an absolute field day with the movie, and it's not even just because of that. They're questioning like the speed at which he travels, the fact that he took out power on the eastern seaboard.
Yeah,
means he would have killed babies. Because they would have the EMP had taken out
that's a fair
hospitals call. And like I'm like people just really wanted to prove how bad this by making this movie seem even worse than it is because they're that unkeen about it.
They're trying to just trying to disparage it by making it sound worse.
It's like I don't think you need to. Where I was going with this, I don't think you need to make it seem worse. It looks terrible.
Yeah,
you seem more enthused about it than I do. I'm surprised at this.
I don't know. I've thought about it more. I was like, I don't know. I'd probably go see it for a laugh, but I don't know if I'd be that invested in it.
Someone buy me a ticket, I'll go see it.
Yeah.
Ryan, if you might buy me a ticket, I'll go see it with you.
Someone else buy us 2 tickets, please. 2 tickets for 2 grown men.
Yeah, 2 tickets to 2 grown men to see the Sonic movie.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nostalgia. Yeah. High up.
Sorry, just if you do that, we'll give you a shout out in the next podcast.
Awesome. No, fair enough. I will do that. All of a sudden, there'll be nothing to him.
Yeah, there'll be nothing, so we have to shut out ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. I did like the fact that wrote this down because I mentioned it, the cinematographer of Detective Pikachu. The cinematographer's having to deal with these crazy creatures, not too undissimilar because you're putting it into a real world spectacle. He was offered the role of working on the Sonic film, and he turned it down to do Detective Pikachu. Mm-hmm. And now he's all like, "I'm so glad I did."
I'm not surprised.
I'm kind of not surprised, but it seems like a really not a good thing to do for your career to say, "Hey, I'm so glad I didn't get that movie because that trailer looks crap."
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like
the smartest. You are kind of shooting yourself in the foot a bit, aren't you?
Yeah, like there's one thing for these people to have negative reactions, and it's. I mean, you're a cinematographer. You can make a movie look like whatever it is. The CG is going to look like the CG.
Yeah.
You might have a certain visual elemental control over that, but there's certain bits you don't either. Even I'm sure there's stuff in Detective Pikachu that he had no control over, because it's all animated. So they kind of set up the lighting and style, but then all of a sudden they change the design of what you may have thought it was going to be. So I don't know. It's very, very unusual anyway. I think it's shooting yourself in the foot.
Should we move on to other news that's come out?
Yeah, we've still got so much that's going crazy.
Hopefully we can get through this.
Yeah, we got too much time. Just not too much more. We got enough time.
So there was Bond 25 trailer, was it, or is it just news?
The news is going to be a trailer.
News is going to be a trailer.
Because the movie's not that far away. It's next year.
Yeah.
So and the shooting's started. So
it's been announced that Rami Malek is the Bond villain,
which had been rumored for a while beforehand. The rumors are pretty heavy, and it wasn't. Let's be honest, it's not that far-fetched of a push, really.
No.
After Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, definitely on the heels of it. And Mr. Robot.
Yeah, Mr. Robot, which has got one more season, which is really just one episode left, apparently. So, it's not too surprising. It seems like a good choice. Who knows what the movie's going to be like. Right now, every other James Bond movie tends to be good, and so this one should be a good one, if we're going by that record. What was the last one? Spectre. Your mileage on Spectre may vary, but I wasn't that impressed with it. There's bits of it I liked, but for the most part, it definitely was no Skyfall.
No.
You've seen the more recent ones. We talked about this.
Yeah, I've seen Skyfall. I haven't seen Spectre.
Oh, you still haven't seen it? No. All right. You're still going to have to see it, because this is the problem. The whole Daniel Craig era all kind of link into one another now, and this is whatever this ends up going to be. The rumoured title was Shatterhand, but apparently it's been debunked. Whatever it ends up being will be directly connected to the after events of Spectre. So you're going to have to see that eventually in order for it to probably
make sense.
Well, they tend to be hopefully somewhat standalone, but I guess it's better if you've seen it. I guess.
Yeah.
I feel better about him cast as the villain than I did about Christoph Waltz in Spectre, to be honest. Not just because of... I've done this rant before, and you know this bit, because this is the bit you don't have to worry about Spectre. I'm going to say it, because if you haven't seen Spectre by now...
I think everybody knew about this anyway.
This is where I'm going. So, in Spectre, Waltz plays a character called Oberhauser, and it turns out that he had a connection to James Bond when he was a child, and all James knows him as is Oberhauser. And then all of a sudden there's this reveal in the final act where he's like, I'm not even Oberhauser, I'm Blofeld. It's Starvo Blofeld. And it means absolutely nothing to James Bond.
Yeah.
It means absolutely zip. It only means something to the audience, and it was so stupid.
Yeah.
It was forced, it was terrible, it's a dumb move. All under the obviousness of the fact that it had Spectre and the organisation Spectre as its the title of the movie and the logo and all that sort of stuff. So of course it made sense that he would be Blofeld. Why don't they just make him Blofeld in the first place? He didn't need to be Oberhauser. He just could have been just Blofeld.
The way they wanted to do it, I guess, and made no sense.
It's like, and they did the same thing with Star Trek Into Darkness.
Yeah.
It's Khan. No, it's not Khan. He's whatever the character
John
was.
Smith or
whatever his name was. And no, it was Khan. Just, it doesn't mean anything to the characters in the movie. For the most part, Star Trek had a little bit of connection because of old Spock. But even then, it was a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
They might as well just called him Khan. It wouldn't have made any difference. And then the reveal was that he's like, yes, he's Khan. If he's Khan, then you need to be worried. That's what it should have been. They could have just done that. He could have just been Khan right from the start. And then they don't take it as seriously as a threat until old Spock said this was the case. Then, yeah, just dumb. Speaking of Star Trek, though.
Yep. Good segue.
It was a good segue. Unintentional, but a good segue. There's an animated series coming from... Is it to Nickelodeon?
I think it was, yeah. Either it's a new series or it's the original animated series is going to Nickelodeon.
Well, either way,
I can't remember. It was a while ago I read about this, so I can't really remember the details.
That's
I should
alright.
have looked it up more.
But no, but either way, I mean, the original anime series was kind of cool. I really liked it when it's time. I remember watching when I was young, because obviously they used to have Star Trek on TV, and occasionally the animated series would be on. It's very dated by its animation style. It was cheaply animated, but it worked. It was a continuation of Star Trek as it stood in the 60s, and it worked really well. If it's a new version of it, or any version of it, it'd be interesting, I'm sure.
I wonder if it will be the Kelvin timeline, as is the Abrams films, or
who knows?
It'll be its own. Because, I mean, we've now got, was it Star Trek, whatever that series is on Netflix, I can't remember now. Is it
Discovery?
Discovery, thank you, yeah. That's its own different story now too.
Oh, gosh, so I haven't kept up with this. I haven't watched that. Everyone says it's quite good. I haven't watched it. There was a couple other Nickelodeon film announcements. They've both been known for a while. There's a Rocko's Modern Life film and an Invader Zim film. They've both been in discussion and creation for a couple of years now. They still don't have release dates, but they do have an announcement that they will arrive on Netflix. So I'd be interested to see if this. That's why I was wondering if this Star Trek thing was getting up on Netflix as well, because that would kind of make sense as well. But I was never much of an Invader Zim fan. I know plenty of people were. I was definitely a Rocko's Modern Life fan.
Yeah, I was more Rocko than Invader Zim.
The idea of the Rocko's Modern Life film is that they are transplanted through time somehow and brought to the modern era, and they have to deal with like the modern conveniences, and it's about the technology change since Rocko's Modern Life's existence in the 90s. I don't know quite how it's going to work.
No, well, I wonder if Rocco's going to work at Tinder now then. Because he did, for those of you who weren't really aware of it, Rocco did work at a sex phone line operator. It's like just one of those hidden inside jokes that adults may get, but it just go over kids' heads. Yeah. So, maybe if they bring him in the real world, he'll be like your Tinder IT guy or something,
Works, no, probably some internet pornography or something.
Yeah, probably something like that.
I hope that it's still... I'd rather have the subversion of it, and that it's not so overt and blatant, because that didn't really work for Ren and Stimpy when all of a sudden they became a gay, bickering married couple.
Yeah.
That didn't work anymore. Like, it just was better when it was alluded to occasionally.
Much like Bert and Ernie.
Yes. God, dude, that really put me off. I'll let you go into the next.
He's gone. All right, I'll carry on. So there was a new Swamp Thing TV series announced. I think I read that it's going to be on ABC in America, maybe, or CBS. I can't remember now. But so that'll be interesting to see if that comes out over here. No,
there was a trailer for it too, wasn't there? A little teaser.
I think there was just a little teaser of like eyes coming up out of the swamp.
Okay. I didn't see it.
Either that or title card. I can't remember, but I saw the 90s version of the Swamp Thing TV series at work last year, just while I was doing work, watching it.
Is it on Jones? Have they got it on Jones?
Yeah, it was on Jones. Yeah, the original series. Yeah, no, I quite enjoyed that. I didn't know anything of Swamp Thing before then, but that I quite enjoyed. It was typical 90s with your sort of 90s sound effects and cheese of like if you throw a bad guys, it's always the weird sort of echoey sort of noise. Not although.
So what was that again?
No, yeah, I'll read. Yeah, I'll retract what my initial noise was. It was more the whoosh, sort of as they get thrown and then crashing into like a box of crates or something.
Yeah, okay.
As they do.
Like when Jazzy Jeff gets thrown out the door in Fresh Prince.
Yeah. Something like that. Now, I'll move on to another sort of small TV series. I've recently finished watching the Stargate Origins TV series, which, if you're a Stargate fan, I am. I grew up watching the original movie and then all the TV series that followed after SG-1, Atlantis and Universe. Now, watching this as a prequel to the original movie, because it's set in that world as opposed to SG-1 world, which is still loosely based in the movie world, but I'm not going into that now. It takes a while to build up to where the story's going, and I can see why they initially released it as one big film of like just under an hour and a half, just called Catherine, or Stargate Origins Catherine, because it deals with I can't remember her last name, but the older lady from the Stargate movie, Catherine.
You see the flashback, it's got Luke Perry, isn't it? And
No.
No, that's no. So I'm thinking of
No.
I'm thinking of Fifth Element. But there's the bit at the start of Stargate, the original movie, that shows the 1920s with the young version of the girl. Anyway, so it's based around that. Concept.
You see that as well. You see the Stargate being brought up at the pyramids in Giza, but it's set 10 years after that. So it's set in the 1930s.
Which kind of contradicts the movie as well, doesn't it? Because then they talk about the fact they've never opened the gate in the movie.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And in this, it's activated twice. Twice on Earth and then once off-world coming back the other way.
Again, I'm going back to the Grease prequel. Why? What's the point?
It's not until the last two episodes where it fits into the movie more often. Fits into the main movie, where in the original movie you see Daniel Jackson trying to find out the address home, and he can't figure out what the seventh symbol is, the address. But then he manages to figure out what it is, like under a whole bunch of rubble.
I remember.
And in Origins, there's a reason for that, is the younger Catherine finds it herself, and then she actually breaks it off and then covers it, therefore leading into the movie.
Which, again, still contradicts the movie because the character... Well, it doesn't contradict the movie, but the character's involved in the situation in the movie as if it's exploratory, and she's excited about it. So, I don't know.
I'll get to that.
No.
So you also see a younger version of, is it Eric Azazi? He's like always the guy that's cast as a Middle Eastern or Egyptian. You know who I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So you see his character from the Stargate movie as a younger version in Stargate Origins. So that's a nice little tie-in as well. So here's where I was going with the contradiction to the movie of the Catherine of being excited about it. At the end of it, her and her dad get their memory erased. Therefore, not remembering what happens. Yeah.
No.
Not remembering what happens, and therefore, when it's activated in the movie for the first time, they're excited about it. Yeah. So
it makes the whole point of a prequel series relatively pointless.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I felt about it. Like I was really excited that it tied into the movie, but when that happened, I was like, "What? Why?"
That's like the equivalent of like it was all a dream.
Pretty much
in the TV series. It's, oh god.
Yeah, but we'll move on from that.
So because we're going from Stargate, I wanted to go back to Star Wars just a little bit, but this is really Star Wars and Avatar 2 onwards, 3, 4, 5. Part of the Fox announcements that we kind of briefly talked about with the comic stuff earlier on and the Marvel films was this announcement that even though they said they're going to take a break from Star Wars, what they basically mean is they're going to take a 3-year break from Star Wars, and then they're going to make more Star Wars and it's going to be one Star Wars film every 2 years, starting in 2022. And then on the opposing years, starting in 2021, you're going to have an Avatar film. So Avatar 2021, 2023,
2025.
And then Star Wars 2022, 24,
26.
It's
Disney.
We don't know what the Star Wars movie is going to be. Is it going to be Rian Johnson's series? Is it going to be the one from the Game of Thrones writers, showrunners?
That we don't know. We just know what's coming.
They'll announce it eventually. Avatar's kind of almost compressed because while it's a year later for Avatar 2, there was already going to be a 2-year gap. It was going to be 2 in 2 years, then a 2-year gap, and then 2 in 2 more years. Now it's just 2 years separate for each one.
Yeah.
I don't know if Disney dictated this to Cameron and said we want to do this way because it makes sense and it gives you an extra year. I've heard discussion. The filming was supposed to start for the live action-y stuff here in New Zealand
about a weeks ago.
Yeah, but the start of this month, I think. But I'm not sure if it's 100%, but I think it's been delayed slightly just to do with something to do with the camera system that he's trying to sort out. For
redevelop
3D.
or something.
Redevelop. I keep hearing these rumors, whether or not it's the truth, I don't know. But the fact that it keeps coming up probably means there's some semblance of truth in it. So having another year's delay on the first one is probably not the worst thing in the world right now.
No.
I guess it'd be more interesting if what happens is there's a further delay and all of a sudden it goes back. It won't be going back a year, it'll be going back 2 years immediately because if it doesn't make the 2021 date, if it doesn't make the 2021 date, it'll be going to 2024. Yeah. 2023.
23, sorry. Yeah. So it'll be interesting if that does happen.
I don't even know. Like, I will see where I feel about Star Wars after the end of this year, but I think a break longer than a few years is necessary. I think 2022 is perhaps a little too soon.
Yeah.
To be honest, it depends on how well this does. Obviously, if Disney goes well, this made a hell of a lot of money. We wish we had another one next year or in 2 years' time. That would be great.
Well, I mean, we had 10 years between Revenge of the Sith and Force Awakens.
Yeah.
10, yeah. And then before then it was 16 years.
Yeah.
Between Return of the Jedi and Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so, if you don't include the re-releases of the
but
first
yeah,
two.
I'm excluding those.
But,
but
then I'm
in Disney's hands now.
We've talked about this too a little bit. I don't know if I'm here, but there's a lot of people who are very excited about Avatar sequels. They're usually under the age of 25.
Yeah.
Because for them, Avatar, the original Avatar in 2009 was kind of like Star Wars or Jurassic Park or something a very top of a tempo. And I didn't realize this until you were talking about this for your film school. All the ones that were at your film school, and they were like, "Oh, I like Avatar. Avatar's why I'm here." I'm like,
"Yeah,
really, really?"
Yeah. So no, I like Avatar, but there's other better films out there.
I don't mind Avatar. It was good seeing it at the movies in 3D, but I was not exactly hanging out for more.
No.
That's kind of one of those things that I don't think. Yeah, I if they said, "Oh, we're going to make one more film," I would be like, "Okay, we'll see where this goes." But to make 3 more films, I wouldn't be surprised all of a sudden James Cameron's like, "I'm going to make a 4th one too." Like, so it's the 5th, 6th. Who knows? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who knows? Was it the Avatar business? That's what he calls it. Right?
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Something I am looking forward to that got also shown this week was a trailer for It Chapter 2.
Mm-hmm.
But what I really liked is before they'd even announced it. So Stephen King was the one that announced it first on Twitter and probably Facebook and all the usual guff, saying it was coming that week. And all the main adult cast members all posted up pictures on Instagram of them just hanging out doing day-to-day stuff. Like, it didn't look like regular posts. So, but if you paid attention, you realize there's a red balloon in all the shots.
Oh, wow. That's
so
pretty cool.
The idea was really cool. I thought it was really, really awesome. I had someone told me to look at it, didn't tell me what it was, and I was looking. I was like, why am I looking at a picture of these people like just hanging out doing weird? Oh wait, there's a balloon in the background, or there's a shadow of a balloon. I'm like, I get it now. And then the other part of the marketing campaign for the trailer they did was a bunch of like high level kind of film critics, reviewers, magazines and stuff all got sent big giant courier boxes with no markings on them, and they opened the box and there was a thing underneath saying It Chapter 2, and they took the lid off that, and then 2 giant red balloons fell out of the box and floated to the ceiling.
It's kind of a risky strategy, sending an unmarked box.
Oh, it was just a regular courier box on the outside, and it probably just had a promotions department or something. And of course, these magazines and
of course
media outlets and stuff probably get this sort of stuff all the time. They always get sent swag and bits and pieces. But just the fact that the bit that made me laugh the most though was there was one guy who got the box, but the balloons had deflated.
Oh no!
So there's this great picture of him. Like I wasn't there so excited, and then it's like him holding these balloons and they're like dropping to the ground.
Oh no!
I thought that was brilliant.
That must have been the first one sent.
Maybe.
Or the longest to get to him, maybe.
To get to him, yeah. Just deflated over time. That was quite funny. But the trailer itself, you saw the trailer, right?
Yeah, I saw it.
It's more of a scene.
Yeah.
Or a cut down of a scene.
2-minute scene.
And then like just elements of the movie. I've been excited about this even since the first movie. The first movie was amazing. So I'm really keen to see how this goes. The scene plays out from the book, and it's also in the original miniseries as well. Different version of it, but as you'd expect. But it looks pretty intense. Everyone's talking about the creepy non-moving moment in the trailer where the woman just stops, doesn't move, doesn't blink, doesn't do anything, and then just continues to talk. It's kind of unsettling.
I definitely think this movie's going to be much more bloody than the first was.
Yeah, reading the comments, not just from the cast and crew that have been talking about it, but even and Bill Skarsgård was talking about how even the character, the way he's having to approach for the sequel is the fact that in the first movie, the clown was trying to scare things. Then it's realised what it's like to be on the receiving end of fear. So it has a grudge against these kids, now adults, and because of that it's going to be ramped up. And given that it doesn't have the restrictions of a TV miniseries and what we already saw in the first movie to begin with, you're probably completely right. It's going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw this as well. This kind of went around the last couple of days, just to move sideways, but onwards to another thing. There was, unfortunately not true, a discussion where it might have been the Wachowskis were returning to the Matrix franchise. Turned out not to be true.
Yeah, I saw that, but I didn't actually know it was a false rumor, so I'm kind of disappointed about that.
Yeah, I saw the updates. So what happened was Chad Stahelski, who does the John Wick films and worked on the Matrix,
he's Keanu's stunt double.
One of them, yeah. He made the comment about whether or not he kind of had thought that maybe they were working on something, and he was like, if they did, I'd be back to
jump at it,
in a heartbeat. This was taken as the Wachowskis are working on another Matrix, because there was some discussion a few years ago that Warner Brothers was redeveloping the idea and going to do a new version of it or something, or a new universe. Obviously, nothing of that's happened. But yeah, everyone all of a sudden the collective internet got their hopes up and then had them crushed.
Yeah,
but it's interesting. Like, we talk about it jokingly, like, that Matrix was a great movie. Well, I wonder why they never made any sequels.
It's true.
But I mean, there was 2 sequels, and they weren't the most received. They did all right box office wise. They weren't completely panned. There were some good moments in them.
Yeah,
but I'm really surprised that people were that enthused about the Wachowskis returning to it, to be honest. If maybe they've forgotten the 2 movies, and just the buoyancy of the original movie is what keeps that idea alive.
Yeah, they're just like, no, there's only one Matrix film. What are you guys on?
Yeah. There's 2 Matrix films, but what it actually is 1 Matrix film and 1 series of animated shorts.
Yeah, I'll give you that one, which tie into the first film.
And it's tied into the first film, and build the universe surrounding the Matrix, just so that you're aware of the fact that this was a universe.
Yeah.
That we never followed up on.
Speaking of Keanu Reeves,
yes,
in the Matrix.
John Wick's 3's out this week. Is definitely probably the next thing
Hooray!
I'm going to go see. I was interesting. Keanu's doing a lot of press. Very tired this week, it seemed. A lot of the people, like, he's obviously low on energy. So it obviously takes a lot out of him doing press.
Shooting guns would.
I wish he was probably like through the same 17 questions every interview.
Yeah.
It's probably like, I wish I could shoot you right now. But he did sort of make the comment, which is that obviously there's this idea of they've been continuing to build the universe. So there's a Continental TV show. They're making a video game now. I don't know if you saw this as well.
No, I hadn't.
It's not a shooter like you think it would be. It's kind of a tactical shooter. You plan your strategic moves, and then you move in, and you'll see. If you look at the trailer.
Well, I'm more of a running gun.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Be interesting to see. It's got a very interesting style to it. Anyway, but also the movies will continue if the audiences want it. So if we go see John Wick 3, then we make it happen.
Go see John Wick 3.
Then
we want more.
We want more. But doesn't that take away some of the reveal? Like, it's not like John Wick's going to die in any of these movies, because you can't keep making them if he dies. I don't know. It's not going to. In his retirement, he's got to like retire happy. Like, we've got to get to a point in these movies like, this is the last, like John Wick 6, John Wick 7, whatever it is, this is the last one, and he's going to get to the end and retire, which is where I'm going to move slightly sideways, because I saw this today and I thought it was brilliant. Keanu got asked about in this interview with Uprocks about whether or not what he would be doing, what the character would be doing as a retirement, like what was he supposed to be doing when he got out of the Assassin's Creed to begin with. Apparently repairing and mending old books is the
wow.
That was the answer. He said they actually, in the original script, there was actually a scene that they shot and wasn't included in the movie. It was showing him repairing old books.
Wow.
So, yeah, I thought it was very interesting.
That's a complete different lifestyle change, I guess.
Yeah, it's a massive lifestyle change. And this is like, so the end of the last movie, whatever it is, will be him walking off into the sunset to go repair books. Retired again in a life of assassination.
Well, looking back now, I wonder if there's any sort of allusions to that as well.
I don't know.
Like, you see like a whole bunch of old books on a bookcase or something.
I did think it was interesting that the trailer showed him using a book to kill someone.
Well, maybe that's what ties into it. Maybe,
I don't know.
Because in the third one, it's pretty much the whole world is against John Wick. So maybe he's in his book repair room and someone comes in and that's what he's got close by. He's got a book, so
it's true.
Woof, where you go.
Possible. I know something else about that use of the book that would be pretty funny. I don't want to ruin it for you because I accidentally read it and it's funny. Like, it's one of those little bits of levity in a situation kind of scene. So I won't
All right.
spoil it, but it does have something to do
Leave
with
that
the
up.
book.
All right.
So you'll see it when you see it. And I
Okay.
won't say anything more. And I won't ruin it for anyone else listening to it, because
Very cool.
we'll talk about it once we've seen the movie.
Yeah, they'll come and John Wick you.
Probably, yeah.
Ruin my movie.
I think we should move on. We could talk briefly about a few things that we've seen. So obviously, last time we talked, we were going to go see Shazam.
Mm-hmm.
It was in discussion.
Yep.
Which we did in Wellington while we were down there. The both of us and your girlfriend Anne went for a road trip down to Wellington for Armageddon. Armageddon was okay.
Yeah, not the best.
Not the best.
We won't get into that here.
No, it's not worth it. But on one of the nights we thought we'd go see a movie. We discussed going to see the Lego movie, possibly, if that was on. There was no screenings. There's a slight lack of Central City cinemas right now because of the closure of Reading's Courtney, and there's no other multiplexes. There's Embassy, but we got there 20 minutes too late for Shazam at 6, I think it was.
Yeah.
So we ended up driving out to Island Bay for the Empire. I looked at all the others. We would have driven out back up to the Roxy in Miramar, possibly, if it had been on, or even into Lower Hutt. So there's no theatre in Lower Hutt. Up to Poru or something if we'd had to. But there wasn't anything. So we went to Empire and Island Bay, which I've never been to, actually. Of all the theatres in Wellington, it's the only one I hadn't been to. So I've now been to, I think, all of them. And so we all went and saw Shazam. This is way too long of an intro for what it is. I will start with you then, if you're going to chuckle at my absurdity right now.
No, it's fine.
What did you think?
You were calling it.
What did you think of Shazam?
I was actually pleasantly surprised by it. And I kind of think towards the end of the film, I'd kind of predicted what was going to happen. And I'm kind of glad that I did. But I think most people could see it coming anyway.
Yeah.
But it was still a surprisingly good film to me.
I think
I really enjoyed it.
I think it is definitely the answer to how people have perceived the DC films as too dark and too grim, to have elements of quite good levity and comedy. It has its grim moments which are kind of off-putting, like we talked about this when the bad guy's brother is thrown out the window, and this is not really a spoiler. This probably is a spoiler, but I'm just going to talk about it anyway because I was just like, "Whoa, they did that!" That's
it's
dark.
Completely unexpected.
It was it was dark,
especially for a movie like Shazam.
Yeah, it was quite a big. So it's still like it trying to connect it to the tissue where you can kind of feel like anything can happen.
Yeah,
and it might, and I kind of like that. I was quite pleasantly surprised. Even the ridiculous thing with the woman that was working with him as well at the door.
Yeah,
that as well. I was like, oh well, okay. So if this can happen, anything can happen. It was kind of cool. It was, really good sense of humor. Really, really fun movie. I honestly think I enjoyed it way more. And in retrospect, like more thinking about it, I really wouldn't mind seeing it again because it was actually a really funny movie. My concerns is where this sits in the pantheon. Exactly what we were talking about earlier on about where it sits in the pantheon of the films. How is it to say more would be to ruin the very end of the film.
Yeah,
but it'd be interesting to see where it goes. And my other question is less to do with the actual film itself, but more to do with the box office, which is, has it been strong enough
for it to warrant more?
Exactly, and where that will go. Because it's done okay, but it hasn't done Captain Marvel movie. It hasn't done Endgame, obviously.
Probably never will.
It was never going to get, let's be honest, never going to get that close. But even Captain Marvel, it made over $1 billion worldwide, and I think it's made not as much as Aquaman, but still okay, man. I actually didn't look up what it's worldwide. I know the American domestic was like 170, I think, something like that. Which isn't bad. It's not bad, but I don't think I don't know how much it was worldwide. Not the upper end, maybe like 400, 500,000. Whether or not that's enough, who knows?
We'll see.
It'd be a shame because it was really good, and I would like to see more of it. Definitely recommend it.
Yeah.
No, I've seen two other things since I got back from Wellington. You have not seen either one of these.
I've not seen either of these, no.
I saw Pet Semetary. It is an interesting retake on the original book and kind of the original movie, if you've seen the original movie that came out 30 years ago. Jeez. It's a scary thought.
Sounds about right.
That was 30 years ago, 89. The book and this version of the film differ in ways, but they still have certain parallels. But that's kind of good because it creates some changes in suspense. And there's one really obvious one which I can talk about, which is that it in the book, in the original movie, a child dies and is resurrected, because this is what the Pet Cemetery does, or an area behind the Pet Cemetery to be more specific. In the original version, it's the youngest child. In the new version, it's the eldest child, which is the older daughter, which creates an interesting change of dynamic, and it's a good little twist. And on top of it, there's more changes to the ending and the way the movie plays out. It's not one of the best modern retellings of a book, but on the pile of Stephen King adaptations, it's probably above average. Okay. Solid cast, good effects. The cats that are in it are really good. They use like several cats to portray the cat in the family. The cat gets killed first, unsurprisingly.
Just ruin it.
No, everyone knows this is part of the marketing. Well, they should anyway, if you've seen anything to do in the posters. So they just trained a bunch of cats to do the role, and it's all very well crafted, well shot. For a horror movie, not that horrific. More of almost an edgy thriller with certain horror elements. Yeah. Could definitely recommend it. Probably not the movies. I don't even know if it's still screening, but definitely worth watching if you like that sort of horror movie. The other thing I saw was Long Shot, which is Charlize Theron and Seth Rogen. Now, when you go into it, I'm thinking Seth Rogen's going to be Seth Rogen-ish.
Yeah.
That's kind of true.
Stoner buddy.
So it's kind of true, but it's also kind of not. This is kind of interesting. It's like there are elements where you kind of expect of his sort of his raunchier comedies, and there's definitely moments of it, but they're few and far between. It is much more of a generic comedy with romantic comedy elements. Theron and him managed to actually sell a friendship/relationship that is believable, is a movable situation. Theron actually steals the movie away from him.
Oh, wow.
She has some real standout scenes. One I wanted to talk about with you, if you haven't seen it, but I do want to mention that it gets brought up, is the characters knew each other from childhood because she was slightly older than him and she was his babysitter. Only a few years, not that much difference. But one of her favourite films, and they get mentioned, is that she was a really big fan of Encino Man. Especially Pauly Shore's character.
Yeah.
And she does an imitation of Pauly Shore from Encino Man. And it's terrible, but that's the whole point. That's the joke, is that. But it's the fact that she committed to that for the joke is brilliant.
I wonder if she's actually seen it herself.
I don't know. I have no idea. But the fact that she committed herself to that joke tells you exactly the sort of the gamefulness she has in this movie. And I think that's something you can say about Theron's entire career. She's willing to do a lot for her craft. And compared to, say, someone like a Christian Bale, who gets a lot of applauding for his varied acting roles and changes in weight and shape, Charlize Theron does the exact same thing, but nobody ever mentions this.
Nobody bats an eye, no.
Not really. They don't really talk about her in the same breath.
The only difference is, though, that Charlize Theron's won an Oscar.
Yes. So the Academy's at least recognise the fact that she's
just general public just don't bat an eye.
So even when I don't like her that much in Fast and the Furious, but that's again less to do with her and more to do with the writing.
She's good in other stuff.
Most of the other stuff I see her, and then in this, she's a presidential campaign hopeful. She's Secretary of the State. One of the best scenes of the movie has to deal with her. They decide to go out for she needs an escape from the work a day that she's been doing. She's always on the go. There's always stuff going on. And he ends up being her speechwriter, and so he decides. So she says, "I want to go out and we're just going to party or do something crazy." And so he ends up getting her a bunch of like drugs, and then she has to but then a national emergency happens. It's brilliant. It's one of the best hilarious scenes of that entire movie, and she sells it so well, and it works so well. And it's if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It was surprisingly very funny, way better than I expected. Very, very good movie.
All right, might have to go check that one out.
Definitely. I'd say take Anne with you, and
all right,
go. You guys,
I'll add that to the list.
Good laugh. We were going to talk about Avengers, but I think what we should probably move on
and save that for another day.
Well, I was going to say, what we might do is kind of record something separately another time that's more to do with spoilers, and we can talk a bit more about Far From Home as well, because of that trailer. You have to have seen Endgame, and we both have a lot to say about Endgame, I feel. But this is already, A, long enough as it is, and B, kind of more, we want it separate discussion anyway. So we can keep this completely spoiler-free, and we'll talk about it on another one. Hopefully try and do it sooner rather than later, not leave this too long, just so we'll get this out straight away, and then we can do another proper episode. So it'll probably be like a 6.5 or a Something like that. I'll let you dictate that, Ryan.
All right. I'll come up with some arbitrary number, like 6 point what?
6 point something. Yeah, 6 point what?
Yeah.
6 point what is Endgame?
Yeah, 6 point who is Endgame?
You did me one better.
I did do you one better.
You did one better. So we'll finish out, I guess. Is this where we're going?
Yeah, we'll move on to our new game that we've come up with. I think we've kind of worked that names in 30 seconds kind of works better for you than it does for me. So hopefully this is maybe a bit more fair.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're good at... I want to sell this to people because I don't think they realise this. You are just as good at me at being able to come up with movies that we could talk about an actor and both of us will come up with them. But put the clock on you and you crumble.
It's much harder, yeah.
And I struggle. Like, even I had moments where I'm just like, oh, geez. And then you would say something that was really obvious, and I'd be like, oh, how did I forget that?
Yeah.
Like, Tim Allen was a perfect example, and then he's like, I would have taken Toy Story.
Yeah.
Toy Story, of course. What's the most obvious one ever,
Yeah.
So...
I mean, if you guys haven't done it yourself yet, go back, listen to those episodes. Time yourself, play along.
Yeah, just listen to
if you want to criticize us and you're yelling stuff at us, do it yourself. Stop being a hypocrite.
So instead, we're still going to do like a 3-round game.
Yep.
3 rounds each. But instead, what we've got is a list of movies, and it's still in the bag.
Still in the bag.
Still in the bag, but we've got movies, and we get to look at the movie, and then we've got to come up with a description for that movie and tell the other person it as badly as possible.
Yeah. We've got to try and guess what that film is with the worst description possible.
So I'm going to call this Films But Badly, I guess is probably the best way to describe it. I know this is not an original game. I know other people have done this, but I think it's brilliant. I think this will work really well for us. The other great thing about it is that people listening can actually play along a lot easier.
Play along, yeah.
Because they can listen to the description and then they can try and guess before we give away the answer. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Right. Yeah.
So you pick the name out.
All right.
I'll give you take time to think about it if you need time to think about it. That bit I
wow, this is quite actually deep now. Wow.
Yeah. It's not like the names.
All the names were just flat on the bottom of the bag, but because these are generally long titles, they take up what, half of the bag at least.
I made them bigger too intentionally because last time they made them too small.
Oh yeah, that'll do.
All right,
that'll do. Okay. So I've pulled one out. I have it here.
You don't start the timer until you finish describing it too. By the way, it's the timer.
All right, fair, cool. Okay, so this is a movie about a guy's life is a whole lie, and he loses his father, and he's trying to find out the truth.
Oh, it's the Truman Show.
Done. Too easy. That was probably too easy.
I think it was too easy. That's all right. It's all right. That wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't. That was almost a description of the movie, but it was very vague. I got it. I didn't even need the timer, really, did I?
No. I mean, as soon as I'd finished, I'd started. I think it got to like not even a second.
Right. It's a futuristic world where, like, it's just a haunted house, and the winner of it is a cat.
Is it Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
No.
Futuristic. We're a haunted house.
When I say winner, I mean survivor.
It's not Sabrina.
No. Futuristic. Think about this. I'll give you that clue. For free.
For free?
3.
I may need it.
2.
No, nothing's coming to mind. No.
So I'll stop it.
No, I got nothing.
The movie is Alien.
Oh.
If I'd said Space Truckers, I probably... I thought about saying that, but I thought it was a bit too on the nose. Yeah. The cat is a survivor. It is.
Yeah.
It's Cat and Ripley. I didn't want to say that.
Yeah,
So the cat's
that's cool.
And it's like a haunted house because they're basically stalked by him. So
that's a really good way to describe Alien. Wow. I don't even know if I would have come up with that, to be fair.
I shouldn't have said that a survivor is a cat, to be more specific, because I made it sound like the cat was the only survivor.
Yeah.
Apologies.
That's probably why I was a bit confused. Okay, here we go. This is my second. Middle-aged man going through a crisis. He starts working out and has an infatuation with a high school girl.
Wow. Middle-aged man, workout, infatuation, high school girl.
Mm-hmm.
God, I'm struggling with this one. Hopefully there's nobody else that's like, I know exactly what that movie is. You can tell me it's going to be so obvious.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, so...
1 second. The movie was American Beauty.
Ah! That is really obvious. Alright, so this film... let me think of this properly to word this correctly. This film has two detectives. One is a bad detective and one of them is a not great detective and a bad husband. The other one is a detective who shouldn't probably not been put on this case, and they have to find a killer.
For some reason I want to say Lethal Weapon.
Incorrect.
Trying to think of that Shane Black film. Russell Crowe. Is it that one?
Incorrect.
Nah. Damn, I'm just trying to think of cop films now.
Nice guy.
Thank you.
5 seconds.
What is it?
And you're out of time.
Nah. What is it?
What's in the box?
Of course.
He's a bad detective.
Yeah.
And he's a bad husband because he left his wife to be killed by the killer.
Of course.
So now let's probably go. And that's the worst description ever. That's the idea.
Okay, so I kind of reckon you'll get this before I even start the timer, before I finish.
Yeah, may not.
So we'll go. Okay, so the guy narrates his life trying to find his old girlfriend.
So Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
No.
Ooh. Narrates his life trying to find his old girlfriend.
It's taken longer than I would have expected. So this might be a stumper.
Maybe I'm overthinking it. This is the problem. I think I'm overthinking this. It's probably exactly what you're saying. Like, directly. What movies have the voiceover? Ooh. I'm
2
really
seconds.
struggling. No, I can't.
Time.
The answer was?
The answer was Forrest Gump.
Ah, that's a good That's a good one. I was overthinking it. That's not badly. That's just like simplest form of exactly what that movie is. That's really good, right?
I was actually trying to think. I was originally going to go. Man sits on park bench talking to strangers about his life.
No, that would have been you give away. Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of like, if I go guy narrates his life, that's kind of generic to some narrated films.
That's good. This is a period set corporate takeover film, but with guns. Where there's various generations involved.
Ooh, my initial thought was Fight Club, but that's definitely not it now. Generational film.
Corporate takeovers with guns.
I want to say The Godfather.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, nice.
That was very well done.
We should actually make a tally of this now.
Okay, so it
see
should
who
be
gets
both.
what.
So if you get it, you get a point, and if you manage to stump the other person, you get a point.
Yeah, so 2 points
So
to you.
2 points for stumping.
Yeah, 2 points for stumping, 1 point for
Guessing.
And then, so it's the same both ways.
Oh wow, a tie.
2 points for stumping and 1 point for
This is
guessing
good.
it.
I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
This is good. All right, 3 points apiece. We'll have to come back for another round. Do we do it, or do we have to do it? Do we have to do a deciding round? This is the question. Do we have to do a deciding round each, or do we just leave it and score overall?
I score overall. I reckon.
Okay, score overall it
We'll go
is.
score overall.
Oh, I'm happy with that. Happy with that indeed.
And I think on that note, we should probably wrap up because
Yes,
we've been
definitely.
going on long enough now.
Yes, blah 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 blah.
We hope you enjoyed this really long episode. We do apologise for that again for our hiatus as well.
Yeah, there's been a lot to talk about just because of the hiatus, but also there's been a lot in the last couple of weeks. It's just been insane. It really has been a lot.
But yeah, once again, if you did enjoy it, make sure to like, subscribe, share it around the usual places. Tell your friends, your family.
Yep.
Post it wherever. Make a poster for us if you want. Just stick it on a lamppost.
Yeah.
We'll enjoy that.
just some rant. Have you got a plane? You
Yeah,
skywriting. That'd be great.
Skywrite on the back. Yeah,
that's right. Or a banner. That's fine too.
yeah, that'll
I'm
do.
happy.
Yeah, however you want to advertise us, do it.
That'd be great. We're too lazy to do it ourselves.
Yeah, we're too busy working. So if you can afford it, do it.
Yeah, it'd be great. But no, it's been a good episode. We will probably try and reconvene to talk about Avengers as a separate thing because as we were saying, too much spoilers and this is already long enough as it is. So maybe another half an hour or so just by itself.
Absolutely.
And maybe another 10 minutes talking about Spider-Man and what we're expecting of that. Just kind of by itself. So hopefully we'll get that out not too much long after as well. But yeah, that game went well. Hopefully we'll do another 3 rounds next time.
And hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, hopefully
and played along.
Played along, exactly. All right, until next time.
So.